Everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're in my corner, and I have a very special guest in the corner. Would you like to unveil your secret or not so secret identity?
Hi, my name is Keir, and I work on Darkest Dungeon.
And it's so nice to have you on the show. I got a chance to meet the crew at PlayStation Experience. Was very excited about that because my roommate and I were backers to the original Kickstarter. Um, you know, it's been a year and a half now. It feels like, or
Well,
a
the
year.
Kickstarter was February 2013, or sorry, 2014. Yes,
Yeah.
it's 2016. And then we did early access in February 2015. So,
It just feels like I've been playing the game at this point for a really long time. So it's like I can't remember how long the Kickstarter, how long ago that was, but very excited to finally see it, come to fruition because you guys have the full release up on Steam.
yeah, we added the end game content, which was the main, like the last piece of the puzzle for um, what we wanted to do before leaving early access.
And now, considering a lot of people have been jumping on the Kickstarter and Indiegogo wagon for a really long time. How did you guys find the experience? How did it help production to be so open? And do you think it helped the speed of everything?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helped going directly to the fans um, for funding. Like that definitely assists in development and makes things go a lot smoother than trying to coordinate with other people to try and get funding that way. And it also is just like really nice exposure on Kickstarter. Like you're kind of putting your game out there to a whole new community of people who love crowdfunding games and browse that. So I think it really uh, beefed up our kind of fan base, and we are able to do community streams and stuff like that, and have pretty good involvement. So I think Kickstarter really helped with that.
And what was nice is the game is so unique, in my opinion, because it's crushingly difficult, which I love, and the aesthetic is so pleasing. Like for anime fans, we either see really cutesy stuff, or you go to the other side of the spectrum, and it's like Grand Theft Auto. It's like I'm cool and hardcore, and I shoot people, like, and this is just kind of morbid and dark, and I love that.
Yeah, and I think the way we developed the art kind of also added a unique aesthetic to it. Just the kind of static images that are brought to life. Um, I also, yeah, because we have kind of a two-person art team. One person doing all the static images, drawing it, painting it, however you want to call it, Chris Barassa, and then Brooks Gordon animates and brings all that stuff to life. So I really liked how our whole aesthetic turned out.
Yeah, it looks great, and I love the diversity of the characters. Like there are some characters I didn't know were female, for example, initially, and then you play the game and you're like, oh, that's cool. And I like the fact that that's a part of the game as well.
Yeah, I personally like. I don't have a huge amount of call on the diversity of the cast, but I really love how it turned out. Like it's, and also like some classes, like whether their gender doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I agree.
Like in the Plague Doctor, like it's cool that she's a woman, but it's not a huge like burden in the way the game plays because of that,
And I
or
think
anything.
I think that's important too, right? Because people are like, "Oh, gender, you have to like put it everywhere on the walls," and it's like, no. I didn't know the plague doctor was a woman for like 6 months. When I was like, "Oh, that's cool to know." But that's the fun part of the game. I think is because you're constantly discovering. It's not a game that handheld holds in any respect, whether it's story or the way the characters interact or the items interact. You're always kind of finding something new about it, and that's what makes it so good.
Yeah, I really like how we do a lot of the storytelling through dialogue and through kind of backstory. Um, I really enjoy how that's kind of unfolded.
Well, now out of curiosity, do you have a favorite team lineup?
Um, I personally like running without healers,
Oh, really?
because I'm expecting somebody to die anyways. So why slow that process down? So I like to try and yeah, run like an all tank lineup when I can.
I want to try that now. See, I'm usually the white mage in like all things that have classes, so I just naturally gravitate towards having a healer in the group.
Hmm.
But I love the synergy of having like a man at arms and then a jester and a grave robber because I like that they apply different debuffs and the jester jumps around, which I really like. So I've really liked that kind of synergy and just having the man at arms be the guy in front to be like, "What do you want? I'm a tank."
Yeah, and we before we left early access, we kind of improved the AI and how they handle like mark targets.
Mhm.
So that was kind of one of the later, like he became a better tank later in development, just because now a lot of the AI will focus on that mark more.
To be
Uh,
fair, when his counter was super broken, he was awesome.
yeah, we have a lot of the sub changes we make end up being very beneficial for the players. Like we've gone through our like Hellion had a moment there early in development where she was um, doing really well, and yeah, people really like to talk about the like exploits they find.
Yeah, I think people constantly want to learn and get better at the game, which is what makes the community and the people who are supporting it so strong.
Yeah, and it's it's also just funny like making like just removing the exploits, because that's something that I usually end up tasked with as one of the programmers, is actually going in there and making it so you can't get infinite money, or making it so that specific buff doesn't last as long as it did, or change it in such ways. So
Oh, is
um,
that when you would avoid the forums because somebody's like, no.
yeah, well, I get a lot of like very positive communication with the fans, just because it's usually like, oh, I fixed this, or oh, I added the ability to this. So um,
No,
yeah, and we've
that's
also
fun.
tried to maintain the saves as best we can through development. So that's been a bit challenging, but also just really heartwarming when you fix somebody's save, or able to save their heroes.
Yeah, definitely. I also like too how you can't cheat the game and go like exit, 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 and you're like, oh man, when you start it back up.
Yeah, people always try though. People find their ways of when to quit the game. Seems like a lot of our players are constantly going through and just quitting out at every possible moment to see if they can squeeze an extra little bit of gold out of there. Or,
Or not going insane or something.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how radical two playthroughs will be. For example, I've been watching my roommate play because Steam has been acting up on me. Curse you, Steam. And he's got so many crests, and he's like, I always have crest shortages, and I don't know what's going on. It's like, well, let's look at the draw.
Yeah, well, I mean, the different dungeons have a tendency to drop different heirlooms, so um, that's the main way you'd farm those resources.
Hmm.
Um, but then if you level up those dungeons, then they have harder quests, and then your only heroes that are able to do it are the stronger heroes. So I could see how somebody might get an abundance of one resource and need the others.
Yeah, he's really funny because he never buys torches, and it drives me nuts.
Does he purposely snuff out the torch when?
He doesn't like stuff like he'll keep his one active, and then he'll like buy a second one specifically if it's just for a boss,
Hmm.
just so he has it for the boss. But otherwise, like he's like, "Oops, forgot to buy torches," and goes through the dungeon. I'm like, no,
Well, you get better loot, and
I
that's kind of what
know,
you're after ultimately.
I know, but it drives me nuts. I'm super controlling in the game, so my playstyle is entirely different. I'm like, okay, this is when I want to have the torch going, and this is when I want to have it off. You know.
Yeah, it's been great having people play the game on Twitch as well as other streaming services, and just being able to watch other people play the game and see what they're experiencing and see what they're missing.
Hmm.
Like it seems like trap disarms or something that I've been watching people miss because we have now a little pop up that pops up under the hero that has their trap disarm percent,
Oh,
and people
yeah.
seem to miss that. And then they're like, "Oh, I wonder what my trap disarm percent is." Or they open the character panel and go through each character, which is also not the most efficient way of doing that. Um,
Right.
but people get in their way, and I don't know. It's interesting to watch. Like we can also find bugs that way too. A lot of bug reports we get are from streamers, and they're like, "Well, I saved this highlight of what happened," and then you can kind of scrub through that and get better steps than most bug reports we get.
I kind of have to wonder too, because it seemed like me and my roommate were having a conversation about this. When the community first started talking about the game, they were like, "Yay, it's hard!" And now that it's kind of been released and it's been out for a while, people are like, "Ugh, it's too hard." And how do you guys deal with that?
I mean, it's really hard to. I mean, we have our vision of what we want the game to be,
Hmm.
and we always will hold true to that. But we can address it in like different ways. Like sometimes it's about knowledge, like understanding how things work can improve how people perform in the game. We have made the game, especially right for release. It seems like the game got easier than it was in early access from some of the changes that go in. But I think also people don't usually talk about the difficulty savings that they're getting. Like we used to have a lot more skills completely block out your turn.
Yeah,
So
that's
like
right.
you'd go for a heal and then they'd block it and that would be the end of your turn. Whereas now you can heal somebody else on that turn.
Hmm.
So we I mean we add yeah I mean we add stuff in there. I mean it's the difficulty is constantly changing, and we also have data that we can look through and um and get information about that. So
I mean, from a personal point of view, I think it's at a really good spot myself. I mean, I do miss the man at arms counter, but you know, I'm a cheater face. So.
yeah, well, it's also like some fixes also like affect both sides.
Hmm.
So we used to like one thing we recently changed is you can only guard one person at a time. Um, but that also affects the octo tank. So the octo tank can't guard two people at once anymore. Um,
Well, it's cool to get a chance to talk about that stuff with you because that I would think would be the thing that would kind of drive me mad is you have people on one side being like, "This is great, this is I love how difficult," and then the people are like, "Ah," it's being kind of pulled both ways. So it's nice to hear that you guys are dealing with it in stride.
yeah, and we have our vision of what we want the player experience to be, and that's going to involve heroes dying.
Hmm.
Uh, we can guarantee that no matter how good you are, you're going to lose some heroes, and that's not like a lot of games. Like a lot of games, it's expected that you can go perfect through the whole thing, and not ever be scathed. So, but I feel like we've been upfront about our game not being for everybody, and
Man, you guys would be upset watching me play because I restart when my characters die.
yeah,
Like
it's
every
that's
time.
the. I mean, I initially wasn't a fan of the starting heroes in the tutorial. But it's really cool now because it seems like they've become like something that the community really enjoys is the whole Dismas and Renault, like trying to keep them alive and trying to take them through the whole campaign.
Hmm.
That's been really cool to see because that takes commitment, and it's the one thing that's the same for every single uh, person is that they always start with those heroes. Everything else is not guaranteed. Um, so it's been cool just to kind of see people attached to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll rotate between like one, two, maybe three teams, and that's usually what ends up screwing me over is I don't rotate between enough people, or I don't get enough people. And I know that, but at the same time I'm stubborn and I'm like, RNG will be in my favor just this one time. So,
Yeah, and some people set their artificial things where they like want to run with only one of each class, or they want to ignore certain classes or stuff like that. So it's been interesting seeing the different people kind of add their own restrictions to themselves as they play.
mhm. Well, talking about classes, I believe the Musketeer one is the one that people are waiting for and are super excited about. Um, I know that me and my roommate kept talking about that. Like, man, Abomination is so weird. I wonder what Musketeer is gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have anything to announce about
Mhm.
the upcoming class right now, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what. I mean, we usually add some sort of, at least with the classes we've added since early access. There's been a new kind of mechanic with each of them. So I mean, I haven't even heard about what what the first draft's going to be of a character. So I'm also anticipating it.
Yeah, no, it sounds exciting because one thing I have to applaud everyone on the team for is balancing. For example, Abomination it seems super strong, and then you realize you take the hit to the stress like consistently, and also half of the characters won't work with him. I found that out the hard way. I was like, "Ooh, I'll get an Abomination early on." Oh, whoops.
Yeah, yeah. The I mean, the balancing's for the most part done by the design team, so I can't really speak on that too much. Um, but it's interesting just seeing the changes that go in.
Yeah, definitely. And I just have to applaud you guys once again for having a very consistent Kickstarter with some great updates and being so so in tune with the feedback from the community. It's probably one of the best Kickstarters I've seen from beginning to end, to be quite honest.
Thank you. It's,
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, obviously, despite the full release being out, there's still a lot of work to be done, a lot of porting jobs. So I imagine that your work on Darkest Dungeon is going to continue for probably another year or so.
Yeah, I mean, we have Kickstarter commitments to fulfill. I mean, we have platform commitments to fill as well. I mean, we have our PS4 and um, the PS4 version is definitely in development because we showed that at PSX. And Vita's, I think, on the way too. That's being handled by a porting company. Um, so we have that, and we have the Linux version, and then we have all the stuff we promised for the Kickstarter, as well as we're already making changes that we want to do. So yeah, there's lots of development to go right now. We're just now like kind of catching up from the launch, because when we launched, we have a lot more people playing it now, and a lot of interesting issues that are coming up. So we're trying to get through as many of those as possible.
Well, now, as a fan of the Vita, I have to thank the fact that you guys are actually releasing something on Vita. I know people have lost faith in the handheld, but not I. Uh,
Well, I feel like it's. I mean, I don't commute, because I work from home, and I never really had a commute that was long enough to warrant me bringing a Vita.
mhm.
So I only really use it on trips, and I think it's great. Like, especially with PlayStation Plus, which I'm already paying for, you're getting that steady flow of games. And if you buy a game on PS4, sometimes it comes with the Vita version. So there's usually like a good library of games for me to play when I go on like more extended trips.
Yeah, that's
Which,
actually when I use my Vita too. Is any time when I'm traveling.
yeah, and I think it's it's kind of a. I mean, it's not a very newsworthy way of like a device. Like, it's not these huge games that are coming out that everybody's playing immediately. It's I feel like a lot of sales and a lot of PlayStation Plus stuff. So I mean, I enjoy my Vita. It's nice, and also when you go on those trips, like you don't have enough phone battery, so even if you want to just play phone games, like that phone's gonna die, and then what are you gonna do with the rest of your the rest of your trip? So, um,
Yeah, nobody wants to sit at the airport and charge their phones.
yeah.
That's always a depressing feeling. Well, I could leave the airport and get my bags, or I could sit here and charge my phone.
Do you have like any Vita games that you really enjoy?
I praised Dokuro for forever. It's a cute. I'd say I'd describe it as a cutesy puzzle game. That's it's chalk, like that's the aesthetic for it. And some of the puzzles are really difficult, but you're actually like one of the little evil minions, and you're trying to save the princess because I guess you betrayed your boss.
Okay.
And I found it interesting and inventive and just a cute, fun little game. That's the kind of stuff I like to explore on the Vita, is usually Japanese games or very niche title games, kind of like that.
Hmm. Well, they also have like more of a market for Vita games, it seems.
Yeah. I mean, I could get into a whole rant about visual novels and girl games and all that stuff, but I'm sure you're not here for that, and neither are the listeners. Darkest
Yeah.
Dungeon meets Koides. No. But for the fans out there, I did get a chance to play the game on PlayStation. I was very excited for that because I am a console gamer. I know PC Master Race, blah blah blah.
Oh.
But I prefer playing on console. I just like to have a dedicated machine for it. My computer does a bunch of stuff, not just gaming, and Steam hates me, so generally I stick to my console. But I had so much fun playing the battles. I'm sure there's going to be changes and tweaks, so I won't say too much. But I very much liked battles, and I remember it took us a while to figure out how to get the torch statistics to show up, but once we did, it felt really natural.
Yeah, I mean, it was our first pass of any controller controls for the game. So, I mean, I think some stuff's gonna change. I mean, we had a lot of feedback that we took from PSX. Like everybody who was showing would be watching people play and see where they get mixed up and see where we need more information. And one nice thing about the console version is that controller work will make its way to the Steam version. So, yeah, I mean, we've promised. I think we promised controller support, but yeah, the PS4 development's definitely helping with that.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what you guys do. I remember most of my feedback was it felt supernatural in battle. Moving was a little wonky, and then going through inventory out of battle felt there felt like there was a disconnect. Even though, if I remember correctly, the two modes nothing changed. It just felt like, man, like naturally, to get to a menu you press triangle or you press square depending on the game. So like something just didn't feel intuitive about it. I don't know what it was, but that was the feedback I gave at the time. So I'm sure it changed, and I'm sure other people, because I watched a few other people play too, and it seemed like there was that, I guess, disconnect in and out of battle.
Yeah, I mean, battle definitely seemed a lot more intuitive just because you're selecting a skill and selecting a target for 90% of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we also, I mean, we have the two menus for map and inventory, so we need to be able to switch between those and also just check the information about your hero and how they're doing. But it was a good first step, and I was actually happy that we were able to get something that early out to people for feedback as far as controller wise. Like I think that was beneficial.
Yeah, what was the response like at PlayStation Experience?
It was I mean, there's a group of people that were, oh, I love the game already. I just want to see it on the console. Some people were never heard of it before. which is always good. And and there was a weird thing. I mean, it was ultimately great for us. But they had this trading card thing at PlayStation Experience.
Ah, yeah.
So we were, I don't know if we got picked or we applied, but we were one of the 32 trading cards of the, I don't know, maybe 100 booths. So people, a good group of people, were all about the cards, and they just wanted the cards, and that was their mission at PlayStation Experience. So we had a lot of people who had no interest in the game up front. They just wanted a card, and then when we told them they had to play to get a card, they were like, "Okay, I'll do that." And then they were like, "Oh, this is great! Like, I really enjoyed that." So that was yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, I remember how many cards you guys had, like 2 or 3 boxes full of cards left at the end of the show.
Yeah, well, we it's one of those things like we don't want to like we were hearing people complain from other booths. I won't say who. Just gave out all their cards immediately. So they just got rid of them all in the first 2 hours, and then all the people who wanted the full collection couldn't do that. So we wanted to make sure that we were being fair and that like letting like making people play or do the same amount of work for a card. At least for the rarer cards, because each card came in two foils. There was like a bronze and a silver, platinum. So yeah, it was a really good idea. Like I've never seen something like that at a convention work as well as it did. I've been at conventions where it's like, oh, here's a stamp card, and you got to go to these 6 things and then get your stamp from these games, and those never really had the type of reception that the trading cards did at PlayStation Experience.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the first PlayStation Experience, and when they did the cards, it was a pack of cards because it was in Vegas, which made so much sense to me. You not only get the collection of cards, but you get some use out of them. And I liked the fact that they brought the cards back, but I can't use them as a deck of cards, and something about that was a little disappointing. It's like, I have this deck of cards. They look cool.
Were you able to like collect all the cards to play?
For first year, yes, because it seemed like they had more cards. The only card that was really hard to get was the No Man's Sky one, because it was only given away at the concert and nobody knew that. But the hardest one to get was the Order, because the wait time to play that game was 5 hours.
Oh yeah, I could see that because it's not multiplayer. So
Yeah, if I remember correctly, that was all the Kings. I don't know. I have that somewhere.
yeah,
But yeah, it was possible, specifically the first day, because people were just giving cards away.
mm-hmm.
Like, if I remember correctly, Double Fine had their Grim Fandango cards out on the side of each of their kiosks, and you could just whoop and take one. And then I guess something happened, and then suddenly their guys were all holding it the next day.
Yeah, well, I could see somebody taking a stack. I mean, a lot of like some people want a collection just for themselves, but I did check, and a lot of people. There were a lot of eBay, like all the PlayStation Experience cards
Yeah.
on eBay. So, I think it's a tricky balance to have. But
It totally is, and I'm not. I love the fact that you guys made people actually play the game to get a card. I do respect that. I think that's a great idea. I just wish the cards had some other form of functionality. Like if, for example, the scanning system, I went to by your booth, I don't know, I scanned my card at your booth like 15 times, and I never got credit for going to the booth.
I don't know. The lady would come by and reset it for us, and then she just showed me how to reset it. So I try and do it, but it's just I mean it's a very crowded. It's a very crowded network in that convention center, so I wouldn't be surprised if the.
It would have been cool if the cards had like a QR code on them or something that I could redeem my quote unquote prize or whatever. That would have been neat. That way the cards serve some functionality, and I don't need like a phone or whatever. Are like people were funny because they'd take their badge and they'd beat the phone, like they'd beat their badge against the phone, and you'd be like, dude, chill out. It's not.
Yeah, there was a lot like we didn't know. Like we weren't even really sure why you'd want to scan your card. Like why would you want to scan your pass at this game? Like we don't. I don't even know if we got the data back or because I remember like I scanned a couple booths before it opened and like I got a discount for going to PlayStation Experience. Like I got that coupon code in the mail. But yeah, I mean it's an interesting concept, like linking your personal gaming account to going to an event like that.
Yeah, I like the idea. It's just the execution for that part this year was a little messy. So I hope it improves next year. But the event was still super fun.
Yeah, and it's cool that like platforms are holding those events. Just because there were a few games there that might not have shown at PAX or something like that, and just have an opportunity at PlayStation Experience to show and get a better booth than they would at a different convention. So, I mean, the more shows, the better. It's tough to go to all of them and make a game at the same time. So, I think, the more of them, the better.
All of the travel and how tiring it gets. I'm curious to see where PlayStation Experience will be next year. I know that they said they're going to constantly be moving it. From a personal point of view, I preferred it in Vegas because I live here, but but San Francisco made sense for so many companies in the area, so I'm not going to fault them on that one.
Yeah, and also like a lot of the gaming press is in San Francisco, though there wasn't a huge amount of stuff at the PlayStation Experience that was. I mean, there was enough. Like I saw most websites were posting about Fez and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think it's cool the idea that they move it around because there are like all the gaming conventions are kind of at the outer sides of America, at least the North American ones. So, one in the middle of America might be a good idea. Like,
yeah, no, I'd love, even though I probably wouldn't be able to go to that one, I'd love to see it because, I mean, realistically, and I complain about this a lot because people are like, "You're in Vegas, shut up." But like a lot of like musical groups or whatever, they ignore Vegas completely, especially if like they're related to gaming or anime or whatnot. They'll go to California and they'll stop in like 2-3 places, and then they'll go to New York and they're gone, and you're like, oh. And that's how I feel sometimes with a lot of conventions too. Like California has like, I don't know, 16, 20 anime cons, and then they have E3 and a bunch of other stuff, and Las Vegas has the Consumer Electronics Show. Woo!
they also have DICE, but that's more of a
true. Yes.
developer thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also just like certain cities being able to even hold big conferences. Like Seattle kind of gets. It's like they like with PAX in Seattle, they stress the limits of what that city can hold.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, also like I wouldn't mind seeing a Canadian convention that like more Canadian conventions would be good.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, the big anime one there is Anime North. I'm not sure about gaming though.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it's called. I can't remember. I didn't go to the. I think there was like at least one anime convention in Vancouver, where I'm from. But yeah, I mean it's also like Europe doesn't have a huge amount of like consumer facing shows.
I mean
I guess
they
have Leipzig, but
I mean they have well, I was like, geography. They have London, what is it, London MCM Expo, I believe is what it's called. That one's pretty big. And, I mean, there's technically Gamescom. And then, obviously, Tokyo's Tokyo Game Show. So, yeah, I think we're seeing more and more pop up around the world, but it'll take a while for them to get bigger, and then you have companies who aren't attending these shows anymore, or they're not doing things at the shows. Like Nintendo's not doing stuff
Yeah.
at shows anymore. And Microsoft and Nintendo both don't have booths at CES, which is really interesting. And Sony is downgrading more and more of their game stuff from stuff like that. So it's curious to see where they're all being focused. And now PlayStation has their own events, so who knows if they'll exhibit at other ones. And now I'm getting on a tangent.
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, it costs a lot of money, especially for the bigger guys. Like, it costs us a fair amount of money to go to a show. PlayStation Experience, they helped us out. Like, it wasn't as expensive as PAX. But yeah, with those bigger booths, it costs a lot of money, and you start to wonder, like, how many people have not heard that there's a new Smash Brothers game? Like, what's the real benefit of the cost of bigger companies going to these shows and showing off their games, unless they're trying to break in, like some not mid-sized games, but trying to break into that like AAA Elite. They'll spend a lot of money. And like Evolve, did you ever see the Evolve statue?
Yeah, I did.
It's massive.
Yeah.
It's just like the amount, like the parading that around all these booths must cost so much money.
Well, Battleborn's, like, at PlayStation Experience, Battleborn's setup was really impressive, and you're like, whoa. I mean, they had the line for it, so.
Battleborn's the who that's a MOBA, right?
Yeah, it's by Gearbox.
That's the one by Gearbox. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm sure you were actually like stuck to your booth the entire time.
Yeah, no, I didn't never really get a huge amount of time to wander around. And also the bigger booths tend to not be set up before the show opens. That's one thing Nintendo is always really good about, is having their booth accessible before the show opens.
Interesting.
Every show I've been at where Nintendo's been there, it's like you can go over there and play whatever, the new Smash, and there people get there early and stuff like that. But some people don't want to like let you play it before the show opens.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when you show at these shows, you have people come by from other booths or other games that go, oh, hey, how's it going? I really like your game. You should come check out my game. So most of my time usually ends up being like fulfilling those kind of polite gestures.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that. I will say, I'm glad that, Sony supported you guys going to the PlayStation Experience. I'm a Sony fangirl, so that makes me personally very happy.
And it was really cool where we were, too, because they put not all the games, but all 8 of the games in our little alley were from Canada.
Yeah, it was Canada Korner.
Yeah, and also like 8 of them were from Vancouver. So it was all like, we've never really had kind of that kind of expo neighborhood. Like normally all of our friends are over in another section, or they're like on the other side of us, or so you can't really say hi. But it was cool having everybody really close to each other that we knew, just because we could even help out or grab lunch together, or like it was really nice in that standpoint.
Yeah, no, that's whoever made that decision, kudos to them. But yeah, I'm glad you guys had a good time there, and for the fans out there, I know they want to keep up to date with what you guys are doing with the game. Obviously, if people want to buy the game now, it's available on Steam, and I'll link that in the live chat.
As well as Humble and Good Old Games.
I do like me some good old games.
Yeah, so that was one thing we added for this release, was supporting more storefronts.
And where can fans keep up to date with what you guys are doing?
Well, we have a website, which is, I believe, darkestdungeon.com. And we also have a Twitter, which is @darkestdungeon. Both of those have all the newest information, and we'll keep you up to date and let you know if anything's happening. And we also have Steam forums. We have subreddit. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to promote the subreddit, but it's there.
Is it an unofficial subreddit? Is that, is that...
I just don't know. Like, it might be something I honestly don't know, but it's there. Um,
All right. Well, I mean, it's a good place for community to talk about strategy and things like that, I'm assuming.
yeah.
And you guys
Um,
also have your own forums as well.
yeah, we have our own forums on our website, so lots of places to stay up to date and discuss and ask questions and things.
Awesome. Well, since the game is out, do you guys have any plans to go to any other events this year, or is that really not on the table?
Nothing right now.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I mean, we'll be part of the IGF, part of the Game Developers Conference, because we were nominated. So they have a spot there, usually in the expo hall for that. So I imagine we'll be going to that, but nothing to announce right now as far as shows.
Fair enough. I think that's actually pretty much everything. We went on tangents. We talked about the game. We talked about the characters, and we talked. I complained about the community a little bit. But for the fans out there, is there anything else you want to tell them to look forward to? Anything else that you want to promote to them?
No, I mean, we're constantly doing new updates, so the game should still be getting better um, with every update. But yeah, just I guess keep playing and good luck.
That's the best advice, actually, you're probably going to get for the game. Good luck. But for the fans out there, since we're nearing the end of this interview, we actually have a 91.8 The Fan tradition, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to participate.
Possibly.
We basically ask if you would be willing to say a radio bump for us.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So we do the takes live on air, so if you mess up, everybody hears it, but no pressure.
Okay.
We basically ask if you could say, hello, my name is, you insert your name, I do this, you can put whatever you want there, and you're tuned into 91.8 The Fan. I can also write it down for you if you'd like.
I guess, well, we might as well just keep trying it until I get it right.
Yeah.
That should make better radio.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever you want to try, we're recording.
Okay. Hi, I'm Keir Miron. I program on Darkest Dungeon, and you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan.
See, that was easy. Look, you did it right away. You didn't even screw up.
The tuned in part was the part I had to... I would usually say the listening.
Yeah, a lot of people do, but we'll take either or. We have a preference, but we'll take either or, and we appreciate you doing the tradition with us. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the listeners? Any words of wisdom, dating advice, predictions for the end of the world?
No, I guess all that can probably be found on the internet, so...
Wise man, wise man. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we really appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you.
And for any of the listeners out there that missed any of this interview, don't sweat. You can find it on the website within the next few days, so keep your eyes peeled to 91.8 The Fan and your ears tuned in to 91.8 The Fan, where we play everything you want and nothing you don't.